It's really important to have this conversation here today with you in the Children and Youth Pavilion. We know that it's the first time that we have a Children and Youth Pavilion at COP, and it's happening here in Africa, in Egypt, in the COP27. And Your Excellency, your team, the high-level champion team, has been supporting the different youth groups who have been preparing for this. So yeah, we would really love to hear from your insights and messages to the young people, to the children here in the audience today about this COP and also the level of youth engagement that we're having and what's next, what's after the youth pavilion, and how can we optimize children and youth engagement.
Right. First of all, thank you so much for all of what you are doing to support the mission of climate action. Many thanks for your contribution based on science. Have here two nice pieces. One very general, coming from a young child or young member of the young youth from Colombia, whom I met in the Dominican Republic. His name is Francesco. He's here. We invited him to be with us here in Sharm el-Sheikh, not in the pavilion. And he wrote a very nice book on climate change, the meaning of climate change and main actionable measures. It was in Spanish. I asked one of the biggest publishers here in Egypt to translate it into Arabic, and this is a good contribution that encouraged some interesting dynamism. Egyptian children, some of them felt jealous. You say, well, we can do something similar. We can do even something better. That's good for competition. Then, this is coming from you, youth as youths for green hydrogen, which I received just yesterday on the mobilization of green hydrogen. This is more, I would say, more specific and more technical, but this tells you something about in a youth day and a science day. They come together, sharing knowledge of what works and what does not. And I think the participation of the youth had evolved positively from just being in the place with lists of demands and complaints, but the better thing is being part as well of the solutions by providing applicable suggestions based on what they see in their sectors and their communities, could be in schools or universities, but in their localities. The other thing, which should be, while I'm very happy that we have this pavilion, and given that it happened, it will be there forever. So for all future COPs, inshallah. But what I like to see more is to mainstream your priorities in decision making. This needs you to be in the negotiating room more visible, not just to appear as there with your youthful faces, but to be part of the decision-making process, because all of what is being mentioned here is basically about you, not about the generations who are older than you by 20 or 30 or 40 years. This is basically about you for 2030 and beyond, for 2050 and beyond. So you have the right to shape it, as you have the right to choose your academic career, your professional career. You have the right to fix the mess that had been left to you by successive generations.
I love it. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And indeed, today and over the last COPs, we continue as young people to be present in those negotiation rooms. We have Yongo as well, who's coordinating the young negotiators' involvement and presence there in those tables, in those decision-making tables at COP. And yeah, that's something that we try to do. And youth unity is the key here. Us being present here and being present in the discussion rooms, being present in the field, doing action. I guess that's how we can be involved as young people. And yeah, I would love also to hear more, like from the high-level champion. As a high-level champion, what are the responsibilities and maybe what are the ways where we can push for more youth spaces in such spaces as COP?
Right. Many thanks. I participated earlier today in one of the events hosted by the youth representatives in Egypt, the outcomes of the COI, the outcomes of the demands by the youth. It was attended by ministers of youth and the special envoy, the youth envoy for Egypt. But as a climate champion, I'm responsible for coordinating all of the matters that are happening outside the negotiation room, including your work, NGOs, CSOs, university, think tanks, research centers, business sector, international organizations, regional or global. So I'd like to take this opportunity, and if you don't mind, um, you need to make it more interactive with the participants. If you have the opportunity to convey one or two areas of action that you thought about properly, or even tentatively during the last days, weeks, and months in preparation of COP27. What could be they? Just one line, two line. I have a colleague of mine who's two of them. They are very young as you are. So they will take notes, they will summarize them to me, and perhaps I may have some good reactions because it's my responsibility to go to the champions. I'm seeing later today the CEO of the UNFCCC. We're seeing later in the months, in the days of the COP, the Secretary General of the UN. So we need really to go with some sort of actionable measures, not just wishes and hopes. So if you can have a microphone available, Amira there and Ahmed are going to be taking notes. You can speak in English or Arabic. We prefer in English because this is the broadly spoken language here. And I'm happy to react if I know the answer. Or
Yes.
Get the list.
Anyone wants to share some reflections in that sense?
yes,
All right, thank you, Dr. Mahmoud. As you know, I'm a communications youth for the high-level climate champions, and just before you came in, I was asking Lily that how, with the work that we're doing at the climate champions, we're already integrating young people through the fellowship program.
Yes.
So how do we encourage more of this in other part of the parastatals under the UN? That's one. Then secondly, we had a lot of reports around young people not being able to affordably sponsor themselves to this conversation. So how do we analyze, how do we localize content from COP27 for young people and children who are able to be in this room? Yeah.
Very good question. Can I just react by this and my work from statistics and economics, this may be a kind of a sample. Can I know by show of hands which continent, not country, which continent are you from? Who's from North America? Who's from Latin America and the Caribbean? Who's from Africa? Who's from Asia? Minority. And who's from Europe? All right. Okay, so just by show of hands, you can really see where are geographic gaps that we need to work on. The show of hands is confirming what we have, that we did a better job with the Western Hemisphere, Latin America, North America, and definitely the North. We're starting with Africa, which is significantly there now. We are an African continent, so the African continent, so it is expected to have a good share of representation. I'm concerned that we don't have many representatives from India, from China, Vietnam, that Eastern Hemisphere part, we need to do a better job at. Not just for the sake of geographic distribution, it's for the sake of getting knowledge on what it works and prioritize our work better without bias. There was a question there. Thank you. And I rely on you, perhaps through the fellows, that we need to have a list and don't close it until we are comfortable that we have an inclusive list. Yes, ma'am.
We don't have just a gap when it comes to continents, but
Yes.
also regions. And that's something I spoke about in the previous panel. For example, East Atis region, which covers both part of Asia and part of very, in certain times, conflict areas,
Yes.
such as Serbia, Kosovo, Albania,
Absolutely.
and so forth. We have only less than 10 youth present here at COP, as far as I'm aware, and there's only two of us
Eastern
from
Europe
Serbia.
and Central Asia.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think making COP inclusive also means looking at not just geographic gaps, but gaps within certain regions.
Yeah, that should be fixed through the fellows. So we need to do that. So we'll get that into account. and I hope that you will be with us next year in COP28 to raise the same question. What did you do since we raised this issue? Rakis is there, should take in notes, and Ahmed and Amir as well. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone. Jodahi from Ethiopia. So I just wanted to just point out how diverse this group is, this group of people is, and how much access that we don't have in most of the meetings that are on the other side of this. And how do you think we should persuade our leaders and our lead negotiators by going into those rooms and how making an impact for our country and for our planet as such? Because at the end of the day, we're youth, we love our earth, and we are going to live together at the end of the day. So how do you think we should approach our leaders into being in those rooms and making impact? Thank you.
I think sharing the knowledge that we have now discrepancy when it comes to representation in delegations. There are some countries that happen to be more inclusive than others, and they make sure that a couple of representatives with views, they should be in the delegation with full integration and full inclusion of their work. Other countries don't. So this is one approach at the country level we cannot intervene in as non-state actors. Then the other way that could complement the work on the non-state actors, you can use our platforms, and we have the partnerships, and we have our own events, and we have the voice that you can use formally through the UNFCCC. This is not a substitute to the work that you are doing in the green zone, or the work that you are doing if you are one of the climate activists, or if you are one of the participants and organizers of this pavilion here in the blue zone. This is more and above, or over and above than that. And then perhaps we can help, especially through the fellows, to share with you. If you go not specifically to your country, I don't like to make it country specific, but you can go best way to go to tell country X, I was on COP27 and I found a number of countries, they have at least 2 or 3 representatives as part of the formal delegation. We have 0 or we have 1. And even if you have them, some people will be just there, with all due respect, to be just there to show inclusivity rather than giving them a task or giving them an opportunity to reflect the priorities. That is changing, and changing fast. And I'm happy that, for instance, for the first time, this is, you said first time we have a pavilion, for the first time we have a special envoy for youth for this presidency. And I think this will be a permanent feature. This is the way that we do it. As we were doing in the COP27, everything that we did, including from Marrakesh, we are in existence as champions thanks to the Marrakesh partnership. We had the mandate there. So everything that is there is cumulative to the next step. Thank you for your question.
Perfect. As time goes, maybe one last question, or
comments, reflections, wishes. You don't have any more actionable measures. You are happy with the climate action. There is no problem with mitigation. There is no issues.
What's your message for world leaders in this COP?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you have some practical suggestion on how to operationalize the loss and damage, that would be great.
Name, organization, country, and your message.
Okay. I'm Clara from Tanzania, but I'm here.
Speak closer to the microphone, please.
Okay. I'm Clara from Tanzania. I'm here representing World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts.
Ah, all right.
Yeah. What I wish from this conference is there should be inclusion of youth in the decision-making rooms.
Yes.
Can't be outside waiting for some people to decide we should, and after that, we take actions. We should be the ones making decisions, and after decisions, we should take actions. Thank you.
Very good. You said it with more passion and emphasis, but I'm happy to hear. We have 3 files, or say 4, and I just like take few seconds. Need to focus on them on the agenda. The first one is mitigation. What are you expecting more than what's being discussed? How to push this agenda further? You have moral resilience and adaptation. What is missing? Loss and damage is included for the first time. What do you like it to be? And if you have any suggestions for finance, This is my background. Let me know more of what we should be doing.
Also, Your Excellency, we'd
Yeah,
love
here
to
we go.
share. Yeah.
You have.
While Serena gives the mic. Yes, maybe one last question and then we reflection and then we can close.
Yeah.
As I was saying, we also have a global youth statement where young people, of course.
I saw that.
Yeah, so that's where also big messages are there on different areas. So quickly.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm from Peru. And I just wanted to remind all of you and the representative of the panel that we will be following closely how you end up making solutions out of your commitments. In this room, in this conference, but I also wanted to remind you that there's more than having this space. It is about, if you want us to have representation in these kind of spaces, we need resources. Yes. Resources for our delegations, resources for our organizations. We are young people right now that most of us have struggled so much to get to this space to be represented, and that is not fair. Most of us have organizations in our countries that want to implement solutions that are tackling mitigation, that are tackling adaptation, that are addressing loss and damage, and they are addressing so many issues that we as frontline communities are facing, and we do not have the funding to implement those projects. So here we're talking about policies, climate policies, but we have solutions. What about the funds? What about the following to our projects? We are making the change in our communities, and it is not fair that in this room we talk about youth representation within each other. We talk about how it's important for you to be present with each other, and we do not see ourselves in those rooms all the time. It is unfair. Yeah. And I just wanted to remind you that because it's important that you're here, and we're happy that you're here listening to us. But just remember that we are going to hold you accountable for everything that you're promising today.
As much
and
as you can,
yeah,
please do. That's very good. Thank you so much. Great stuff. Coming from you, I know how passionate your country is about matters when there is that good conviction. I was there many times in Lima and Cusco. But let me tell you, capacity development is essential because when you are going to be there, you need more evidence, you need more community-based solutions, you need to have better preparations. This is a great start, and what you are doing now, getting your messages across either through statements or meetings with people like me on the non-state side, or more official people like the CEO of the UNFCCC, or other members of the delegates. This is all in the second best scenario. What we need to do is basically my answer to your colleague and brother from Ethiopia, that you need to be in the room for that to happen. That should happen through your own delegation. And then the issue of funding, which I see in all international summits and conferences, more, actually this summit could be more affordable than others when it comes, but definitely the issue of facilitation of participation, a good point that we need to put. One final point, because he had his hand raised, whatever, and then I leave you in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's gentlemen.
Yeah, because
we should leave, yeah.
Yeah, because we would need to close the session for the next round.
Okay. I will not answer him, so at least he will
hear his voice. Yeah, okay, brief reflections.
Sure. Hello, Doctor. I'm Ahmed Khalaf from Egypt. I just have 2 quick points. How to ensure the community-based approach while designing the interventions by the big UN agencies and the development partners, because a lot of time that's not the case and the perspective is exogenous. So this is very important. The second point, and of course you're our professor in economics and so on, so how can we ensure having impact assessments and the monitoring and evaluation methodologies? Because in a lot of global south countries we found that there's just duplicated interventions, and when you ask some officials about the impact assessment of long-term projects, you don't find an answer, and you find like a duplication after a couple of years. So, yeah.
Impact assessment, monitoring and evaluation is done by a variety of organizations with great resources and legitimacy. World Bank, UNDP, African Development Bank, and the likes. Your best bet, you can always do your own assessment, but your best bet in influence and impact is to work closely with them, not to get dominated by their structure, but you will need to work closely with them. The other, this is in your economic question. The other thing about the main value, if you are going to be there just to repeat what the president of the World Bank will be saying or the managing director of one UN agency is doing, that will not really be the matter with more value. What you like really to be contributing with is to exactly convey what you just mentioned. Issues that you see in your community or your sector and convey them with solutions. We have a good partnership with Wharton Business School. It's called Ideas for Action. Please have a look at it. It's not just on climate, it's climate and the SDGs, and I'm happy to follow up on that because it provides capacity and good emphasis on impact and solutions while doing that. Very good.
Perfect. Your Excellency, thank you very much for your dialogue, for having us, and also for joining us today. We would love to have you join us for a family picture with the audience.